Today for future designers, we're going to look at how to make a switch. So to start off with, we're going to talk about a really basic circuit. So for a basic circuit, you need to have a battery, and because we're looking at lights, you need to have a light. And for it to work, you need to have electricity flowing through that. So I've got my battery here, so I'm going to place that, and then I have my red wire representing my positive, and my black wire representing my negative. And then I have a little LED light. So to make this circuit work and turn the light on, I just have to connect it up so that the light's attached like that, and it turns on. Now with a LED, that's a light emitting diode, and a diode only lets electricity flow through one direction. So if I were to undo this and hook it up the other way, then you'll see it won't turn on. So you do need to make sure you've got your correct positive and negative. The other thing you need to make sure is that your light and your power source are matched. Now the easiest way to do this is just to get a cheap light from the $2 shop. That will mean that your power source and your light are already matched, and it's also a great way to get those electronics really cheaply. You don't need to go to any type of electronics store or mess with mains at all. So we're saying make sure that the lights that you're using, if you're making a switch, you're doing it with a battery pack. So please do not start messing with any other power supplies. Okay, so you can get lights from the $2 shop, and that's a really good way to get the cheap electronics. The cheaper the plastic is, the easier it is to take it apart. So this has some really bright LEDs. It's got a switch and a few different settings, and you can just undo that with a screw. Even a little torch you can also unscrew and take apart. You've got the batteries, so you've got a nice battery pack there, and then you've got the little circuit board that has the LEDs in it, which you can take out by just putting a bit of pressure on it. It's a really good way to get your electronics and to make sure that your battery and your light are well matched. Okay, and there we go. I have made a light. I have my power and I have my light source. Now the one thing that might be missing is the switch. How do you turn it on and off? Now a switch is just breaking and reconnecting that circuit. So most people will think about a switch as a button they might push or a little lever they slide, but all it really is underneath is a break and a reconnect of the surface. So I can cut the wire. Okay, so once you've cut your circuit, it's really easy to just then reconnect it and disconnect it. And that's really all a switch is. So we think about buttons or levers or switches that we change and turn on and off, but all that's doing is disconnecting and reconnecting the circuit. So it's a really nice, simple interaction. And from a design point of view, we can think about different ways in which you can reconnect those. So what I did is I went to the $2 shop and I got one of these gloves, which is a glove that allows you to use your touch phone when you're still have your gloves on, which is important if you're gardening sometimes. You might be listening to music and want to change the track. And then what I can do is just connect this wire into that conductive part. Now the thing about electricity is it needs to have a conductive material to run through. So as long as you've got something that can conduct the electricity, you can make a circuit with this. And we've got great materials now, like conductive fabrics, that allow us to make some pretty neat switches or interactions or products from them. I'm just putting that wire through those parts of the glove. Now I've got to put my glove on. I've got my light here, and then when I push my fingers together, it lights up. And so that's just a really nice, simple interaction using really cheap found materials from the $2 shop. But now I've got this really nice way of going, oh, I'm going to turn it on and off. Just very simply. There are all sorts of ways of thinking about making switches in design, and a good way to start your interaction or get some inspiration is to think about when we want to turn the light on and off. So when do you turn your light on? Do you turn your light on when you get home from school, when you're doing a particular task, maybe a task light where you need to see really carefully, maybe you're doing some drawing. It might be when you open your front door and you look out and you want your front light to turn on so you can actually see who's outside or see your way to the recycling bin. Or you can think about when you go to bed and you turn off your light but you still have to walk to your bed and you don't want to trip over when you're getting there, so you might want a light to turn on or off then. So if you're thinking about designing when you're going to bed and you want to turn off the light but you don't want to trip over anything on the way, you could have something like this where you pull back your duvet, the lights turn on, and then you go off, turn off your light, and then you can get back to bed without tripping over anything. And so what's really nice about this is it's just a normal seed LEDs that you can get from the $2 shop or online. And what I've done is I've connected some copper wire that I've just sewn into the blanket. You can also get conductive thread, which is pretty cool, but I just used wire. And I put some wire here and some wire over here, and I just followed the pattern of the duvet. And then they just work as a switch, just like we described earlier. So when I connect the circuit, those lights turn on. It's just very simple, very easy to make. So I have a little battery pack up here, and then I have one part of the circuit going across and down to this side, and another part coming down into this point here, so that they connect and turn on. And then when you want to go back to sleep, you don't want the lights on anymore, you just tuck yourself in.